It's Memorial Day, and I want you all to remember the sacrifice made by all the brave men, women, and their families to have us live the life that we live and pay the ultimate sacrifice. So this Memorial Day, make sure you sit down, take time, and just appreciate the amazing country that we live in, because I'm telling you what, man, we live in the greatest country on earth. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and today's show is presented by Panda Supps. I don't know about you, when it's 4th of July and I can hang out in my stars and stripes and I can just be very patriotic, I also like to try to be in some pretty good shape. So that's why I love Panda Supps. And I'm telling you what right now, if you got a target goal, right now my target goal is to try to get into good shape for my buddy's bachelor party right around the corner. Then it's the 4th of July, and then it's my own bachelor party. I'm using My Stack, and if you want to get My Stack protein, the fat burners, BCAAs, go to chatsports.com/MyStack. Usually it's $199, but if you use my code MyStack, you can get it for $103. That link down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. So coming up here on the Raiders Report, I expect the Raiders to sign at least one NFL free agent after OTAs. Plus, we're going to be breaking down which players could be, unfortunately, on their way out. So one of the things that we always talk about here on this show is some of the free agent targets that we have, some of the players that the Raiders could cut. And if you want to check out a video where I did some of my top free agent targets for the Silver and Black, guess what? I put a video right up here, so please don't be shy and check that bad boy out. Now, we're going to be going through a lot of the free agent targets that I want the Raiders to look at. We're also going to get into the why I am anticipating the Raiders to make a move, and then who the players are that are on the hook and likely getting cut. So the reason why I'm sitting up here saying that I'm confident the Raiders are going to go out there and sign somebody is, well, they have the money to do it, right? Like, I might want a new car. I might want to go out and have dinner later tonight, but if I don't have the money to do it, you're kind of shit out of luck. If you do have the money, well, that's a good start. And right now, the Raiders, at the time that I'm recording this video, and I'll be honest, I am making this video on Thursday, May 23rd. I'm filming some videos ahead of time because I'm hanging out with my dad this weekend. Haven't seen him in a minute. But the Raiders are at $18.4 million at the time that I'm making this video. You're going to get that $24.1 million after June 1st when the Raiders get that Jimmy G post June 1st money at $24.1. You add that together and you're somewhere around $42.5 million. Bottom line, they got money to spend after June 2nd. So before I get in and talk to you all about my top 10 free agents that I want the Silver and Black to sign, I want you to go down to the comments, get loud, get proud, like I know the nation can. Name a free agent that you want Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco to sign. My top 10 list is as followed, and you're going to see a lot of corners top heavy because to me that's still the biggest need that they have on the defensive side of the football. Yes, I'm excited to see what the Camryn Richardson, MJ Devonshire, Ja'Cory, and Bennett can do this offseason, but like to really make this defense a top 5, top unit, I do think adding a corner, maybe a guy even like an Emmanuel Ogbah, a Unique Ngakoue could be another very intriguing option. If you're looking for linebacker, Zach Cunningham. If you want a corner safety hybrid, Patrick Peterson is the name. I also know this. I can't ever tell you how many games the Raiders are going to win. I can't look into that crystal ball. I can give my prediction. I can't sit up here and say when the Raiders are going to do a blockbuster deal like trading for Davante Adams. I know what, though? That Davante Adams trade video was a lot of fun. That's 10 hours of straight content, and Davante gave us a shout-out about it. Also, though, I know this. If the Raiders sign any of those 10 players, even if it's this weekend when I'm hanging out with my dad, sorry, Pops, we're coming in. We're getting wild here. Maybe he'll join me on the Raiders Report. That's why you subscribe. We got that commitment to excellence no matter what. So if you don't know what my Raiders live schedule is, this is how it is follows. The next time that you're going to see me live on the show is going to be May 28th, and I was told from let's just say a legend here at the Raiders Report, Silver and Black Hills, if you will, that May 30th is going to be a crazy, crazy show. So make sure you're tuned in. Make sure that you're watching. It's going to get wet and wild. Bring your drinking pants. So you may be asking, but Mitch, why talk about signing a player now when the Jimmy G money doesn't hit until June 2nd? You know what? I'm glad you asked, because I'm going to tell you exactly why we're breaking it down today, because today is actually a very important day, because I like to paint the picture of what can happen in the future. So the Raiders have already had practice on the 21st and the 20th, technically, of OTAs. They've had practice on the 23rd at the time that I'm making this video as well, which means now this video is going out on May 27th, which means you got 2 more practices coming up, the 28th, the 29th, which then means the next time that the Raiders are going to be practicing, that final 4 stretch of days, post Jimmy Garoppolo money. So the teams, again, you're allowed to have the 10 days to conduct. No live contact is permitted. And I want AP, I want Telesco to be able to get a lot out of these players. And I want them to be able to see everything that they have in them. But there is a part of me that wonders, are some of these players about to practice for the last time? Because you got 91 guys on your team as it stands right now, and if you want to try to go out and have one of those big-time free agents, and there's going to be some of those free agents listening to calls because they know that teams just got a whole bunch of money post-June 1st. Unfortunately, with 91 players, that means you got to trim some fat and you got to move on from some guys. So coming up here, there are 6, and I mean 6 players that, for people that really follow the show, and I mean watch every single day, people that are the Noti gang, people that are, I'm not kidding you, watch every day, you probably know who these 6 players are because I've mentioned them before, but I also know it's May, and not everybody watches every single video that I do. So there are 6 players that if the Raiders want to sign one of those big-name free agents, or realistically any player that has a shot to make the 53-man roster, there are 6 guys that the Raiders have at the very top of their list that are, yep, you guys are getting cut first. I'll tell you who they are, but it is trying to get into beach season. Summer stack is here, and shout out to Panda Supps, who, by the way, is owned by a diehard Raider fan. He's been part of this show now for, 3-4 years at this point, and this might be the best deal he's ever hooked us up with. So if you look at everything that you see on screen, protein, fat burner, protein shaker, the BCAs, I got a gym bag in there. You're also going to get a few samples. Altogether, this is $199. If you go to chatsports.com/mystack, we've already discounted it for you for $159. And then guess what? You're going to get an additional 35% off with code MYSTACK. So usually, this is $199. You're going to get it for $103. Not going to lie, it's a hell of a deal. I've actually already got my own stack again because I paid more a week ago when I bought this exact same thing. And then I talked to the owner. I almost dropped his name. Sorry to the owner of Panda Supps if you okay with me dropping it, I can. But I was like, yo, I got to get this stack. He's like, well, what if we just gave the nation the stack? If you want to get the supplements that I get, here you go from Panda Supps. Chatsports.com/mystack. All right, so let's get into the 6 players that the Raiders would consider cutting first if they did actually go out and sign a free agent. And I'm not sitting up here saying that they're 100% going to sign a free agent, but I do think that there's going to be some homework that's done. And sometimes what NFL teams do is they move on from certain guys, right? Like they trim the fat, they start cutting it down, and then there's that open roster spot. Not too often you sign a player and then somebody gets cut. At least the Raiders, they usually cut somebody and then they'll try to sign them. So the first name that I'm going to bring up here is Alec Bachman, who I did a video at home and kind of broke down everything you need to know about Bachman and why this is actually a very important signing. If you want to go check out why the reasoning of that signing is so important for the Raiders, you can go check out that video right here. But like when you look at the wide receiver depth chart from top to bottom, like he's on the bottom for a reason. Like, in fact, I even forgot to put him on the list. He's somewhere right behind Trey Tucker. He is just a special teams body. And with the amount of injuries that the Raiders have had early on here at OTA practices, like, for example, they had 5 receivers that did not participate in the very first day of OTAs. And you heard Tom McMahon kind of talk about, hey, we need more bodies for special teams. That is why Bachman ended up signing with this team. Let's now go to the next name here, Tyreek McAllister. He works predominantly as a running back / special teams / he's even been listed as a wide receiver for the Raiders. They're really just trying to find a spot for him to be able to get some extra reps in, and he's not going to take down Amir Abdullah. The Raiders drafted Dylan Laube, so you kind of put him in a really tough situation here. He's not going to make this roster, and he might be one of the first guys to go. Another name that will, unfortunately, not make the Raiders roster and will be one of the first names to get cut is Jalen McKenzie, offensive tackle. The Raiders have added some talent here this offseason at OT. They also went on top of that, and decided to draft a guy like Jackson Powers-Johnson, draft a guy like Delmar Glaze. You also went out and you signed an Andres Peak, Cody Whitehair. You brought back Jordan Meredith. Like the Raiders, at this point for their organization, you're probably more than likely just looking to add some of these UDFAs and giving them a little bit more of the extra rep, which is why a lot of these players are getting named. Next name coming up here is John Samuel Schnenker. Was a UDFA on the Raiders practice squad last season at tight end. The Raiders have one of the best tight end rooms in the NFL. You got Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, and I think Harrison Bryant is low-key one of the best tight end threes in the league. Then you got Zach Gentry, Cole Fotheringham, and the sixth tight end on this roster, unfortunately, is Samuel Schnenker, which makes him one of the top cut candidates. Coming up next here, the two defensive players that could be cut. And, I got four names here offensively. The defense is definitely the more solid group, but a lot of this comes down to depth, and there's one really, really big reason why these six players are mentioned. I'll tell you here in just a moment. But remember, Raiders news, it doesn't stop. Life doesn't stop, and I hope Jeremy's and I's doesn't either. So if you want to keep your tabs on Jeremy and I, Jeremy's like, what the heck was that throwing me in that? Seriously, though, stay in tab with everything that we got going on. Instagram, Twitter, at Mitchell Renz 365, at Jeremy Chugs to make sure we're alive. Yep, keeping the pulse on the nation and Jeremy and I. Let's go to the next player here that could get cut. Jaden Grant, safety, another UDFA from last year, played football, Oregon State, and a lot more depth here for this team. And when you look at Trey Taylor, you talk about Isaiah Palomeo, Chris Smith, there's not a single person alive that thinks that Grant or even Sanford is going to make the team over one of those three guys. And then you got two very solid safeties in Marcus Epps and Trevon Merrick. The final name that I'm going to be bringing up here on the show is Charles Snowden. And I know that defensive end is one of the positions that the Raiders do lack true depth at, because very, very top-heavy in Crosby, Kuntz, Tyree Wilson, Janarius Robinson got himself in a little bit of trouble. But, I do think that the Raiders liken Ellerson Smith more. The Raiders probably want to see what Stone, Gaynor, Franklin have to offer, considering the fact that they're UDFAs. Remember, Ogbah, he is an international pathway program player, so it makes no sense to cut him. You might as well just keep him on the roster. So a lot of you might be wondering, Mitch, why are you so confident that those are the six players that the Raiders would end up moving? I'm not sitting up here saying that Telesco and Antonio Pierce said, hey, Mitchell Renz, these are the players that we're going to cut. And when that day happens, believe me, I'm going to let y'all know. But what I am saying is you got to read the tea leaves. And this is why I like rumors. This is why it is important to watch every single video that we do, because Bachman was signed on May 22nd, okay? That's the number one reason why he's not going to be a part of this team for much longer. The other five players were the only second-year players at rookie minicamp. So you think about the 25 rookies that got invited, the 8 guys you drafted, the 17 UDFAs, and then they decided to sprinkle in 7 other players, second-year guys. David Ogbah not mentioned because, again, international pathway program. Bottom of the roster guys, brand new regime, equals, unfortunately, you are going to probably get cut. So, again, it is Memorial Day. I'm actually hanging out with my dad. I'm actually going to be watching some baseball today. My cousin Anthony is down here in town, and it's a whole family affair, and I wouldn't be able to do the family weekend that I'm having with my dad. I wouldn't be able to do a lot of the amazing things. We wouldn't be able to do anything that we do if it wasn't for our amazing country and all the people that paid that ultimate sacrifice. So if you made it this far in the video, and if you want a shout out
USA
on tomorrow's show,
USA,
spam USA down below.
USA, USA, USA.